Hello and welcome to the community tier list. This is where you are in control. Charlie, got a show lined up for them tonight. What's the topic, my friend?
We are going to be ranking the squad in terms of how well they've played this season.
And you guys will be deciding what tier they all go into. Myself and Charlie give our opinions, but we'll be keeping an eye on the live chat and trying to work out what you're putting them, and we're going to go with you guys. So Charlie, let's have a little look at the tier list so we can see the categories that each player is going to get put into. So at the top, we've got Unbelievable Jeff. This is where the guy that's overperformed the most is going. We're doing it against expectation as well as performance. We're doing it against expectation. Underneath that, we've got decent. So the player, 7.5, 8 out of 10 kind of thing. They've done a lot better than you thought, but not quite unbelievable. Then, as described on the 10, they done what you expected. Nothing more, nothing less. They were just all right. Disappointed. This explains it itself, really, doesn't it? The ones that you didn't quite do that, and then you got the rubbish. The ones that were just, the season's a bit of a write-off. I don't think there'll be too many going into the bottom category, though, Charles. That's a good sign, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think it was the bottom categories are probably going to be a lot more empty than the top categories. Let's put it that way.
Makes a change. So, Mr. Walsh, would you like to pick our first player? We'll have a little discussion and we'll see where the live chat fancy putting him.
I'll tell you, let's start with an interesting one. Let's start with Jared Bowen.
Oh, that's a controversial one.
I think
Jared Bowen. So, live chat, where are you putting Jared Bowen? Are you putting him in? What category out of those 5 are you putting Jared? We'll get into the live chat. Me and Charlie keep an eye on what you're voting for, and we will pop him in. But where would you put him, Charlie?
I think Jared Bowen for me would probably go in decent. I think he's been good. I think he hasn't quite hit the heights of his first 6 months here. I think his first 6 months he would have been unbelievable. I thought he was absolutely brilliant. I think when you look at it this season, he's stepped off a little bit, although I think that was probably bound to have happened. I think he's still done very well though. You can't deny that. And he's obviously, when you look at his stats, when you look at his goals and assists and whatnot, I think he's still done very well. I would say decent for me.
I think I'd put him in the one below that. I think I put him in as described. That doesn't mean he's had a bad season. I expected him to have a good season. I think we've had a decent return from him as well in terms of goals and assists. But that's what I expected. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more from him. I genuinely thought at the start of the season, he might have been a Ham of the Year contender. And he's nowhere near Ham of the Year contender. You know, he's in the squad during the season, and I think Moyes is correct to have him in the squad. There's some games I felt he deserved to start, but there's other games I felt he deserved to not start that he did start. So overall, I think he had a strong season, but nothing over fancy. The live chat are all agreeing with you, though, Charlie. They're all saying decent. There's one or two. Mark's agreeing with myself, saying as described, and Joel saying he's been underwhelming. And then Vinny is saying decent as well, as improved decision making in the final third compared to early games with the later games, which I think is a fair point. He's someone I would expect to improve next season. I would expect big improvements from Jared now. He's settled in, no excuses next season.
Yeah, and actually I think you maybe have persuaded me a little bit as you went over there, but I think what pushes him into decent for me is just he's still his goals and assists are still relatively decent. For someone who's not been a first choice starter and you compare him to the rest of the squad where he's in it, I think that's decent. But I think you might have you persuaded me a little bit, but it doesn't seem like you persuaded the live chat, because like you said, there was a lot of decence in there.
Yeah, put him in decent. The live chat said decent, get him in decent, although there's a few just changing their mind as well now, so I'm sorry for that. Let's get him in there. Who else you fancy? Let's do one more before we talk about the sponsors.
Let's do how are you feeling? You feeling controversial? You feeling like
I'm feeling like a tap-in, to be honest with you.
Okay, let's tap-in. Tap-in Angelo Ogbonna.
Well, he's going to go in Unbelievable Jeff, isn't he, Charlie? Surely.
Big injury.
That's not his fault. You know, I expect.
I'm sort of just giving. I'm giving the different side there. I'm giving the different side. I think personally, I would say Unbelievable Jeff, but I'm saying there's been a big injury in there. Could that change the argument?
No, not a chance. He's got to go in Unbelievable Jeff Ogbonna. It's against expectation as well, and he was literally like man of match almost week in, week out prior to his injury. I never expected that in a million years. You know, he had a strong season last season. I thought he should have won Ham of the Year last season. I thought he had a strong season. This season was even better. He was even better this year, and he might not win Ham of the Year, but yeah, he was better than last season when I thought he was unlucky not to win it. I think he was he's had an unbelievable season. Ogbonna, the live chat as well are agreeing with me. To be fair, Mark's agreeing with you. Decent, had time out, but Gates here is saying unbelievable. Jeff, and then Chris, Rob, Alan, lots of people saying unbelievable. Jeff as well.
Could you make another argument of saying in terms of expectations, he's been decent. He's not been.
Nah,
he was probably as good as well last season. No.
He's been even better than last season. I expected him to do well this season, but he's raised his standards.
I mean, look, I'll put him there now. Look, I'll just get
the live chat said
it's going to happen. It is the live chat. And to be fair, I do agree. I do think unbelievable Jeff, but I think there's an argument to be made. That's all I'll say. I think there is an argument to be made.
Yeah. Anyway, before we crack on, I just want to point you in the direction of our sponsor of this video, 5 Yards. A massive thank you to them. It's the online transfer market for football fans. If you think you can spot the next big talent, you can think you can spot someone with a low transfer market that's going to explode and be worth millions in years to come, then this is the game for you. They've launched a Euro 2020 game as well, but I'll talk about that in a separate video. But for this one, if you head over, the link is in the description below and the pinned comments of this video. Head over there, have a little look, get involved, and write some scout reports on the players that you think will be the next big thing, and then come back and tell us who you got right. We will allow you to boast a little bit on Hamish Chat. We're like that. We don't mind people getting it right. We like to see people getting it correct. So you tell us when you get it right. But until then, Charlie, I say we get back to the tier list.
Okay. Do you want to pick
one?
What
are you feeling? Right, okay. I think we go for a tap-in. I think we go for David Martin.
Is that a
bottom left one. I'm going to put him in as described. Because he didn't play. As a third-choice goalkeeper, I don't want to see him, because if you see him, that means your other two goals are either bang out of form or injured, which is not a good thing. We didn't see him. That meant the other two were available. He did it as described. Simple as that, really. He wasn't. Do you know what I mean? He wasn't involved, but he wasn't meant to be involved.
Yeah, I think. You know, I think. Yeah, I didn't even know what to say, and I think you've probably done it as described. I think he's. Yeah, I think that's bang on. I think that's a tap in. Personally, I would say that's described as well.
There's people saying that we shouldn't have included him. He's part of the squad. He's part of the squad. But other people will see my point, saying as described. Chris Harris, as described, probably done bits at the training ground. Tell you what, you can tell he's well liked. You can tell he's well liked around the training ground. And like I said, my perspective on third choice goalkeepers, as you call it, or a certain website call it a training ground goalkeeper, which is the most insulting thing I can possibly think of. My perspective of it changed when someone told me about what the reason being for getting an experienced third choice keeper in is, so that when the Fabianski and Randolph are doing goalkeeping training, Michail Antonio is shooting at David Martin and not a 17-year-old kind of thing in goal. You've got an experienced goalkeeper there for training. So he's done the job as expected. And I think the live chat agree.
Oh, apart from Phil Joe, unbelievable, Jeff. Loves it. Loves a bit of David Martin. Adores him even. But yeah, I think the chat's all saying it as well. As described, David Martin. I think that was a fair shout. I think that's
okay. Let's go controversial.
Oh, go on.
Arthur Masuaku. Where are you putting Masuaku? Live chat, where are you putting Arthur Masuaku?
That's a tough one.
It is a tough one. That's why I picked it.
I'll talk through my thoughts out loud, because I don't have a place yet, and we'll see where we land. When he's played at left wing back, I think he's been decent. Right? I think he's done well there. I think better than I would have expected. I think he gets forward very well. He can't cross the ball to save his life, but he at least gets forward very well. When he plays at left back, trash. Now, he's probably played bad more than he's played well. But that's kind of as I expect him to be. What we've got from Masuaku this season for me is probably what I've expected from him. To play a bit. Sometimes he looks really, really good when he carries the ball. He can't cross and he can't defend. It's kind of in this system, in this specific tier list, I would have to go with as described for Arthur Masuaku.
Well, you have a look at the live chat, see what you think they're saying. I'll talk through my thoughts. I don't think he's good enough long-term for West Ham. I would like to see him upgraded. He's one of the first players I would sell that has a little bit of transfer value behind him kind of thing. But saying that, while I agree with what Scott's saying that what we saw from him this season is what I expected. Good in the middle third. I always say Masuaku is good in the middle third. He's good at dribbling, but the problem is he's not good enough defensively and he's not good enough offensively, and that's a problem. You can't have players like that. The only players you can have like that are centre midfielders, and he's not a centre midfielder. So while I don't think he's the solution long term, I think this season generally, I think he's been as I would have expected. I think this is where you will see reflections in the live chat. I think there's been a variety of people saying things, and this is where you see a reflection of what people expected from him. And the ones that are saying as described, I think it's because their expectations are quite low. And the ones that are saying rubbish, they would have hoped for a bit more. And the ones that are saying he played well, obviously had extremely low expectations of him. So personally, I would also go as described. What do you think the live chat's saying? Because they're the ones picking.
I think they say as described as well. There was a lot of as described. A couple of decents, surprisingly, towards the top, but mostly as described, and a couple of disappointed. But I think it balances out. I think
so. I think it's as described as well. Right, who we got next? What are you saying?
I'll tell you what. Let's go for just have a little look. I'll tell you what, Pablo Fornals. I think there's an obvious answer here, but I don't know if the entire chat will agree. The obvious answer for me,
I think there's a 50-50. Do you?
I think it's unreal footballer. So good. And I think actually here's my argument. I think he's gotten even better. I was talking about this on Two Spanish this week. The idea of like, everyone knows I didn't like David Moyes towards the beginning, and I still think no. But the thing is, he has made Pablo Fornals work so ridiculously hard for him and made himself undroppable, basically. He's one of the first names on the team sheet because of his work rate. And on top of that, the bits he does around that are so good. The argument against him is his numbers and his finishing. People criticize his finishing. I think it was you who said it. I perfectly agreed with the idea of when he has more time, I trust him more to score. When he has less time, I trust him less, sort of thing. I really like Pablo Fornals. I think he's one of the more important players in our squad. And actually, I think he's one of the players who could quite easily go to a much, much bigger side than us and fit in. I would go unbelievable, Jeff. I think without Pablo Fornals, we're a lot worse off this season.
Half the chat's agreeing with you, the other half agree with me. I would put him in decent because I think prior to this season, I thought he was a good player. I've always liked Fornals, always defended Pablo Fornals. So what I'm seeing from him this season reflects what I expected of him. But I do think, I said on a video a couple of weeks ago, if the season had another 2 months to go, if we played June and July, another 10 league games, I think Fornals would have played himself into contention for Hammer of the Year. I think he was improving as the season went on. He was getting stronger and stronger and better and better. And you could argue he was unlucky to miss out on the Spanish Euro squad. In the end, his form was that good. But he cost us some games as well. His poor finishing did cost us some games. He did also win us some games. You know, you look at the Southampton game, he scored 2. He was involved in the other one as well. I think he's had a fantastic season. But my expectation was he would have a really good season. So I would put him in decent. If his finishing was decent, he would be an unbelievable Jeff for me. But what's the live chat saying?
I think it's fairly close, if not leaning towards decent. I think it's fairly close. Decent. I would probably say decent.
Yeah, I think it's decent as well.
Okay, Pablo Fornals, decent. I love him.
Okay, are you ready for controversy?
Oh,
I'm going to drop this controversial player.
Okay.
The live chat's going to bicker. Are you ready for our controversy in the live chat, ladies and gentlemen?
I'm hyped.
Said Benrahma.
Oh my, he's done it. He's done it. The grenade is in. Everyone take cover.
Said Benrahma. Where are we putting Said Benrahma?
Right, I'm going to jump on this grenade early doors. Decent. I think for the amount he's played, I think decent. I think he's not had the game time. He's not had the run of games he should have had. I think he's still like our second highest assists producer, despite the lack of game time he's had. I think if you're looking at a guy who, without working too much in the system and without playing too much, is still producing like that, I think decent. But my expectations for him were probably set a lot lower than everyone else's. You know, I've seen him a lot at Brentford. I watched as much Brentford as I could have last season. So I've seen him quite a bit. And I was like, do you know what? I think this guy is good on the ball. I don't know his defensive side works, and that's sort of what's come to pass. I haven't really been shocked by anything he's done. I think he's been good. And I think actually, given the amount of game time he's had, I'm surprised at how well he's done. I think decent for me. I'll jump on that grenade early doors. If there's one thing I like doing, Geo, is jumping on a grenade, and I will go on that one straight early doors. Decent.
I think I'm going to throw a second one in here. Disappointed for me.
Okay.
Part of it is not down to him. Part of it's down to the lack of game time, okay? So it maybe is a bit harsh to score him down for the lack of minutes. But I expected him to be one of our best players this season. He's one of the best players in the championship. I think he's got the ability to be one of our best players. In some games he was. He got a decent amount of assists, like 6 assists he got to his name, which is a fantastic return for someone that was throttled with minutes and stuff. But there was also games that we played him that I don't think he was good enough, that I thought I could almost see like championship standard in him a little bit, whether it was laziness, selfishness or whatever. Now, that needs sort of coached out of him. And the only way you can really coach it out of him is by playing him and letting him learn on the football pitch. And he didn't get that opportunity. However, if you said to me at the start of the season, Said Benrahma will score a goal and get 6 assists, and you'll be in there at the side, I would have said to you, well, that's not good enough. We pay 25 million for this player. He should be starting week in, week out. So it's disappointing for me, Charlie. And I think the live chat's interesting. Half are disappointing and half are decent. Nobody, well, I say nobody, it's one or two, hardly anyone is as described, which suggests some people think he's been better, or some people think he's not played enough.
And I think this is probably why what Jay said here, as describing Benrahma played like a 30 million player, which he has not. This is where the expectation side of this whole palaver comes into play. When you sign a player for 30 million, 25, 30 million, it's obviously high expectations of that person. If you're a West Ham player coming into that,
Rob's in my head here. You can't put it as this guy. Maybe 25 million, he's creating, get some goals. He's had the minutes and gave the ball away cheaply sometimes, which he has. He is, and I agree with what Alex is saying, disappointing for now. And this, we're only commenting on last season, and this is funny. That's funny. I like that. But I would say I'm going to put him in disappointing.
The West Ham Werner is very clearly Pablo Fornals because the guy can't finish to save his life. But that's a separate problem for a separate time. This is interesting.
I mean, James has got a good reply to Rob. So he's got the second most assists inside, most from open play, playing half the minutes. What else do you want? Well, this is what Rob's saying, James, is what I think he's saying what I'm saying is, which is he didn't play enough. And while it's not his fault, we are talking about his performance through the season, and that is disappointing that he didn't play enough.
I mean, so if the chat is split between decent and disappointed, do we put him in as described?
No, he's got to go one other. It's the most voted for tier, and no one's voted for as described.
Should we do a fresh slate and say everyone? If you think
vote
decent,
now.
Type number 1. If you think disappointed, type number 2. Vote now.
Go.
This is the decider.
1 for decent, 2 for disappointed. And if you picked as described, pick 1 or 2. You're gonna have to get off the fence here. You're gonna have to pick decent or disappointed.
I was gonna say the first person who types 3. Okay, and Thomas did exactly that. Thank you very much, Thomas. This is going to be interesting.
One's taking an early lead. But 2's starting to claw it back a little bit now.
This is tense. This is like the end of Eurovision. I don't know what to do with myself. I'm scared.
I think it's decent. I think the live chart's in decent.
You reckon?
I think so. I think there's more 1s and 2s.
Said Benrahma is going into decent. Well, Said Benrahma needs to be found first. Give me a second, and then he'll go into Said Benrahma.
Yeah, there he is.
There we go. There we go. Said Benrahma's in decent.
There you go.
That was 10. That was a difficult one, Gio. You've lobbed the grenade. That's one of the bigger grenades. In fact, it might be the biggest grenade in there. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Right. So who are we going for next? I think we need an easy one after that.
I think we need an easy one as well. I think let's go with. I'll tell you what. While you decide,
thank you to James Gunn for the £2 in the super chat. It's just 8 goals and assists in half a minute of Bowen and Fornals. Decent. He's not wrong. Statistically, he's not wrong. But I think Fornals' strength isn't necessarily his end product. It should be. I agree with that. But that's why I think Fornals is a centre midfielder, really, because he doesn't have that end product enough. But,
yes, if we want an easy one, Vladimir Coufal.
So well, he's got to be an unbelievable Jeff. This is the easiest one in the video.
It's not the easiest one in the video for me, but it is very, very,
What?
very easy.
Who's easier than him?
Oh, my hammer of the year, but we'll get onto that, I guess.
Oh, rubbish. There's no way you... What? Coufal's delivered?
Darren Randolph.
Going by expectation, there's no way anyone overperformed against expectation than Vladimir Coufal. We bought a 5 million right back. We bought a 5 million right back, and he's performed like a 35 million pound right back.
Okay, I think that's a bit far, but I do agree with you. I do agree. I do agree. Look, it's easy in terms of you're lobbing it up the top. It's a very easy one. You know, it's happening. Like you say, compared to what we thought. Anyway, very clearly gonna happen. Very clearly gonna happen.
Anyway, we'll speed along, because that was an easy one. There's no point in it. Leo, thank you. Leo says he wants to donate, but YouTube checks some of the money. Do you have Venmo? We don't, but we've got PayPal. That helps. PayPal, it's just the email address, hammerschat@gmail.com. The email address is below, but that's our PayPal address if you wish to send it to PayPal. But thank you, Leo. Massively appreciated. Right, what we're going for next, Charlie?
We'll go with Michail Antonio.
Okay, Antonio, live chat. What are you saying from Michail Antonio? Where is he? He's got to go in one of the top two, right?
Yeah.
I thought you were saying no there.
Yeah, I would put him in decent. I think. Well, would I put him in decent, or would I put him higher than that? The thing is with Antonio is, I think we found exactly where he needs to play. And given the fact, I mean, look, he scored 10 and 24, I think, this year, which is very, very good. Like if we got in an actual striker and he got 10 and 24, we'd probably be happy with that sort of level of return, because they would actually probably play 38 games. I think Michail Antonio, I think he's got to go in decent. He can't go in unbelievable for me, mainly because unbelievable mean he would have to, there's a step above where I think he could go. You know, I think his finishing at times is all over the shop. And that's kind of my problem. There's been games this season where I'm just like, bruv, can you please just stay in the middle? There's been problems there, but I think it has to be one of the top two. And I would probably err on decent. But I don't know how much room there is until you get into unbelievable, Jeff. That's kind of the problem here.
The thing is, I think his stats, as you suggest, are unbelievable Jeff stats for a makeshift striker, which is certainly what he started the season out as, a makeshift striker. Those numbers are fantastic, but I think his performances are not unbelievable, Jeff. I think the goals almost suggest that he's a clinical poacher, and that's not what we've had. We've had a guy who is often out of position, who is often wasting decent enough chances and stuff. And I think his performances, unfortunately, for myself, overshadowed the stats there, and I would put him in decent. I think his goal return is unbelievable, Jeff, but his performances are decent. I think that's the main thing for me. And I think the live chat are agreeing with us on this one.
Yeah, I agree. There's a couple of as describes in there as well. Alan, for example, has got one in there. Anthony's got one in there. There's one or two in there, but I do think by and large, there you go. But I think by and large it is decent for Michail Antonio.
Get him in decent. Get him into decent. The good thing is, yeah.
I was going to say, as you know, me and Michail Antonio have a thought relationship at times. I'm always shocked he carries it on, but at this point, it almost is expected that he'll get double figure goals if he's off the striker, because he just does the thing, doesn't he?
Where are we going now?
Let's go with Craig Dawson. I think this one is interesting now. I think 8 games ago, it wasn't interesting. I think it was obvious. Now, I think there's a little bit of interest in Craig Dawson. Where does he go? I think, personally, he goes in decent.
It's hard when you're not the biggest fan of the player. It's hard to sort of think, right, I've got to take off my Geo specs here, because I'm still not convinced by him. However, I'm looking at his performances. I think the first handful of games for us, he was unbelievable Jeff style. But there's been a few games I've seen him play for us, Charlie. He's been rubbish. So against it balances out a little bit. And it's between, as described, and decent for me. And I'll be honest with you, he's been better than I expected. So he's going to go in decent, because I expected him to be crap. And some games he was, but other games he was man of match level. So he goes in decent.
Goes in decent for you. Yeah, I look. I was for his signing at the beginning of the season. I was the only person, and I'll keep that. And I think for me, it was a case of like, yeah, he's got his thing going on. He's doing all right, and I think it has to be decent. I think the chat mostly it's between that and as described, but I think it is mostly decent.
Yeah, I think Jazza sums him up for me. He was described as a woeful defender and got much better than that. I would lessen him much better than that, but he's certainly better than what I expected. But while you pop him into decent, Gonzo's joined us. Gonzo, how you doing?
I'm all right. Who's a woeful defender?
Craig Dawson was described as a woeful defender.
Where's the woeful list?
Anyway, we'll get on to the next player. We'll see what Gonzo thinks. Charlie, who are we going for?
Let's go with. I'll tell you what, because he loves him, Lanzini.
Okay, so Gonzo, Lanzini, bring up the tier list for Gonzo, Charlie. Live chat as well, get your comments in. Are we putting Lanzini in? As described, that's what you expected him to do this season. Decent, he was a bit better than what you expected. Unbelievable Jeff, obviously, he was far better than you ever thought he would be. Disappointed, not quite up to the standards you had for Manu, or rubbish, self-explanatory. He had a crap season. Where would you put him, Gonzo? What are you saying for Lanzini? What tier are you putting him in?
I'm saying decent, actually, because I think nothing was expected of him. I think people thought he was going to leave. I think people thought he was out the door. Pups up, lovely goal against Tottenham. Left out the next game, by the way. And then, I know it's only fleeting, only a couple of appearances, but then we found he's got a whole new position. Tiki-taka, Brazilian, actually not Brazilian, Argentinian. I was going to say Brazilian style football from an Argentinian, of course. I think he's a decent player. And I'll tell you what, I know it's this season, but I think he'll show his worth next season in that Europa League, because I think he's probably going to give Moyes an option that he probably didn't think he had, which is as a bona fide central midfielder. I mean, he didn't play much, but I think when he did play, he played well.
Walsh.
As described for me, I think it's exactly what I expect from Manuel Lanzini, which is there's the capability of being absolutely unreal. And then the rest of the time, he's mostly injured and sort of, being fine. I think that's probably what I would say about Manuel Lanzini as described. There's flashes of utter brilliance in there, but they are always flashes.
Yeah, I'm sort of between as described and disappointed, actually, because for what Charlie said, you expect him to be injured all the time. When he's not injured, he's able to play and he's a good player. But I think I'd almost want to put him in disappointed, because every time I saw him, I think, here we go, Lanzini's back in the squad. They either get injured or he played poorly, because he did have some poor performing games as well in there. So there's a little bit of me disappointed, because almost every summer I do what Gonzo's just done, which is next season we'll see Lanzini, and I've said it for about 3 years now, and I'm running out of next season. This season will be Lanzini's season. So I think I'd be between disappointed and as described. So what's the live chat?
I think there's a fence in between those two. There's a fence, Geo.
What's that? What are you on about?
In between those two categories, there's a fence. You're saying you're between those two categories.
Oh, I am between them. I'm getting splinters. It's fine. I don't mind it. This is the viewer's choice, not our choice. So, Charlie, what's the live chat saying?
They seem to be sort of split between as described and... Well, as described is probably more popular, actually, now.
Okay, put him in as described, and I agree with you. I think most people are saying as described. Get him in there. There was a few disappointed. That's the most disappointed we've seen from a player, apart from Benrahma. Benrahma was disappointed a lot of people. Who are we going for next, Charlie? Gonzo, pick a player that we've got left if you can work out who those small people are.
I see. Why don't we go for the big one? Actually, no. Aaron Cresswell.
I mean, I'll go first. Unbelievable, Jeff. Next question. I think Aaron Cresswell's been next level for me.
I'll take that. I'll go with that as well. Come on. I mean, everyone thought he was finished. We needed to do left back and all the rest of it. Wing back, left centre half, one of the best creative defenders in the Premier League. Fantastic. I mean, unbelievable, Jeff.
Yeah, I'm putting him in unbelievable Jeff as well. I think he's been superb. 8 assists from left back / left wing back. Most assists of a defender this season. Simple as that, really. And the live chat split between unbelievable Jeff and decent. No one's going for less than that, which is good. But a lot of unbelievable and a lot of decent. What are they saying, Charlie? What's the number one?
I think Unbelievable's probably pipping it just about, but it is close, I'd say.
Get him in there. Get him in the top tier. There you go, Alex Cresswell, up beside Ogbonna and Coufal. Now who we got?
Let's go.
Okay.
I'll tell you what, let's have a fun one. Let's have a fun one. Andriy Yarmolenko. Good luck, everyone. Good luck, everyone.
All right, I'll go first.
I know where he's going to end up, but I think I disagree with it. But yeah,
I'll go first. I was tempted to put him in as described for the same caveat we gave Lanzini. We expected him to be injured, but I'm putting him in rubbish because even when he wasn't injured, he wasn't very good, and he's possibly the only player this season that hasn't been good. We brought him on in some games to be the game changer, like at home to Chelsea. He did come on and win the game for us, and he came on did nothing. Lost the ball at times and stuff. So I'm going to put him in rubbish, unfortunately, which with a heavy heart, I think he's a fantastic player.
Yeah, I mean, he is rubbish. Well, no, he's not rubbish, but it is as described. He's been injury prone for years. He was injury prone at Dortmund. That's why they got rid of him. So I didn't expect anything from him at all. He's slow and injury prone. But the rubbish bit is you expect him to score some long range goals and do some magic. We didn't see it. And that's when he's not injured. At this occasion, when he wasn't injured, we saw no magic. Rubbish.
I would go with. I would actually stick with disappointed only because end of last season. I was like, there's been one or two little flashes here. If he does get on, at least I still think he has those flashes in him. It goes well. He loves a flash, but ultimately, what ended up happening was he came on and he was disappointing. He never quite did that again. And that's what makes it so disappointing as opposed to rubbish. Because I still think there's something there. He still can create something. He still does the work when he's actually playing, but it's not very bottom, but it's just like, so I would go disappointed. But I think it's very clear that everyone else is saying rubbish.
I think he's in the rubbish, unfortunately.
Oh.
I was hoping to get away with a rubbish player on this one, but I think he might be on his own there for the rest of the video as well, to be fair. Actually, no, there's one other guy that's going to join him, really. But
there's one guy who will,
there's another guy. Do you want a little bit? Let's go Ryan Fredericks, Charlie. Let's go Ryan Fredericks. I think this one's going to be interesting. This is where we've seen it with a couple of other players in this video. This really depends on what your expectations of Ryan Fredericks for this season was, as to what you're going to grade him. Gonzo.
I'm going to go with decent because I expected him to be rubbish. And when he played, as I've maintained, he was our best player in the first two games. When he played, was unlucky that we've got a right back in as good as Coufal. And I thought when Moyes brought him in, and we did the build-up show, and nobody was impressed before the Villa game, thinking, well, he's going to play him there. He played him in a different role, got him to do a job. Really good. He performed above expectations, but made to the point where when it got later on in the season, if I thought there was a chance Fredericks might come on, I thought, no problem, put him in there. Decent. Oh, excuse me.
Mr. Walsh?
He's surprised me at how much I've grown to like him this year. He's the only player in the squad who I trust to actually get to the line and pull it back along the floor and not just hoof it into the box. I like him, but he is just injury prone all the time and still can't defend very well. And that's where I'm sort of leaning in as described. But for his attacking performances, I'm tempted to say decent, but it hasn't been enough of them. So I'll stick with as described. But he shocked me at how much I'm like, maybe Ryan Fredericks isn't a complete waste of time. Because before I really did think that.
I'm going to put him in decent easily. I think he's closer to unbelievable, Jeff, for me than he is anything else out that decent category. Because I think he was magnificent at the start of the season. I thought he was really strong. Just couldn't get in because of Coufal's form. When we called upon him, he played well. I thought he was just as good, possibly the similar level at left wing back as Arthur Masuaku. And he's not a left wing back. I thought he looked just as dangerous going forward and better defensively. I thought he was arguably a better left wing back for future than Arthur Masuaku this season. So I'm going to put him in decent, comfortably in decent as well. Before I proceed, just a massive thank you to Bobby66. £5 super chat says, get some goodies, fellas. We'll get a couple of biscuits. Thank you, Bobby. Right, Mr. Walsh, who we got?
I think Fredericks is going in as described. Well, from what the chat said, there was decent
Yeah, I
early
think
doors,
so.
but as described, probably took it over. And then we'll go straight to Fabian Balbuena, the general. We'll have a look at the general, see what people are saying about him. I would say as described. Personally, I think he's been reliable enough when he's played. I'm a bit disappointed he's leaving because, to be honest with you, I was like, I like him in the squad. I like him as a squad centre back. I don't think he's played out of his skin. I don't think he's been the worst player in the world. I think he's been as described for me. That's as middle of the road as it gets.
Decent for me. I think he's been very unlucky, actually. I think he's probably been the unluckiest player in the squad. Deserved more opportunities than he got. Didn't get them for whatever reason. The fact that he's leaving on a free would suggest someone's not happy at the club, whether it's him or someone's not happy with him. And his game time would reflect that as well, I think. So I'm going to put him in decent, though. Didn't really play bad. And I thought he was strong this season, Gonzo.
Yeah, well, as described for me, because I didn't, I get this is obviously based on your own expectation, isn't it? And I think he's a good player. I still do. I'd like to, no brainer to retain him, really. But so I'm imagining it's him that wants out because he probably thinks he deserves first team football. He's good enough to get first team football. He probably does if he can get it elsewhere and at a reasonable level. Then good on him, but decent, I think. As described. Sorry, as described.
I think people agree with you too. Put him in there as described, Mr. Ross. Get him in there. Right, what have we got left? We've got a couple of decent ones left, a couple of obvious ones. So we'll go with Mr. Soucek. Let's go for the tap-in. We're not going to take a vote of this one. Into unbelievable, Jeff. Simple as that. Charlie, is that the guy? Is that your one that was more obvious than Coufal?
Yeah, how many? Yes. He's everything.
But we were doing against
how many year by that much?
But we were doing against expectation, though. How can your expectation versus delivery?
Interesting point. Let me put it this way: when he came in and he had that time with Bowen, and I was like, do you know what? He's been really good. Out of the two, I was more convinced that he wouldn't carry on than Bowen because I was like, do you know what? Bowen at least looks like he's got the raw materials, whereas Soucek was popping up with goals. He was doing this, he was doing that, and I was like, surely that can't carry on. Guy's top goal scorer. Guy is defending more. He doesn't miss a game. Out of him and I know I've said this before and people hate it, but out of him and Rice, I would rather I think he's the more essential player in our squad, like the more essential player in the way we play forward. He's unreal. Genuinely, I can't even think of an idea of what this West Ham team is without Soucek. And that was because I thought he would still. I was hoping he'd still be good. He's hammer of the year. That's above that again, and that's maintaining a level which I didn't think was possible for him.
Yeah, right. You justify that pretty well. I'll give you that one. Fair enough.
Cheers. Appreciate it.
What are we doing next? Moving along.
Who's interesting out of these? Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson is interesting.
Oh, I don't want to do this one.
Yeah, neither do I, because it's disappointing for me.
Oh, blimey.
What are you saying, Gonzo?
Yeah, a bit disappointed as well because I think because I love him and I want him to do well, and he just, we were all pleased, weren't we, when he scored the goal against Brighton? We were all delighted, and I know you're going to mitigate it by saying he's played out of position, but it has been a little bit disappointing. But I hope he can do better, and it's a big season. He's going to play more next season.
Out of position a lot for me. I haven't really seen him in his proper position. However, I have been a bit disappointed by what I see even out of position. I expected a little bit more. And it's also because when we saw him a couple of seasons ago when he made his debut against City at left back as well. And he performed really well in those games. So I think I had a little bit more hope for him this year, even out of position. I didn't really see enough. I've gone from being really excited about him to actually being a little bit worried about him for next season, that he might not make it at West Ham. My confidence has come down a little bit. I'm still optimistic and I still hope that he makes it at West Ham. I'm no longer confident. So disappointed for me as well.
I think when you're talking about expectations, it's difficult, right? Because Rice has set a level of expectation for youth players at West Ham that is very unrealistic. Declan Rice, every 6 months, has gotten better. you look at him, you go, oh, he's been better than he was the last season, because continuously, just that churn. And as much as I think I would probably make the argument that I think Ben Johnson has maybe been around about the same as he was previously, he's not made that next step up. And that's a very difficult thing to do. Like Gonzo, like you just said, hopefully he gets more game time next year, which I'm not convinced he will. I'm a bit concerned, a bit like Geo, but hopefully he does that, because there you can see it. It is there. It's definitely not a left back. We can probably say that for certain, or not left wing back at least. But if he can get the game time, which again, he's got 2 right backs ahead of him and one in Coufal who's just going to be first choice. There's no argument there. Hopefully he can kick on a bit more, but it has to be either him playing right back or for me, he goes out on loan, because that's just clearly his position. I don't think he's going to grow if he just keeps getting placed here, there and everywhere all the time. I don't think it's going to happen for him.
Gonzo, what do you think the live chat's saying? What's the votes for? Charlie, do you have any idea? It's between us and disappointed.
It is. I think just edging it is as described, really. Just edging it.
We'll put him in that. We'll give him the sympathy vote as well. We'll put him in there to keep him away from that disappointed tier. Right, who we got left? Lukasz Fabianski. Let's do Fabianski. We're all like, not sure, actually.
Okay. I thought he was going to be rubbish this season. He's actually been decent. He's been better. I thought he was on the way down.
I thought he was going to be rubbish.
Yeah, I did. I thought he was burnt out. I thought he was gone. I thought he was yesterday's business, really. I definitely did. I thought it was possibly a mistake not to bring a goalkeeper in at the start of the season. And his performances... he won Hammer of the Year. Then I felt he dipped. I thought he really dipped. Whilst he's not got to Hammer of the Year standards this season, I think it's been decent. I really do.
Charlie, just stick him in decent while we do our talk. Everybody said decent. There's no arguing the live chat on this one. I would put him in as described. I thought he had a solid season. I think he's a solid Premier League goalkeeper who's just not as good as he was 2 years ago. And I think that's what we got. I thought we got Fabianski, not quite as good as 2 years ago, but still a solid number 1. So I'll go for as described personally. Doesn't mean he had a bad season. He done well, but I expected him to do well.
Yeah, I think I probably agree with that as well. I probably agree. The thing is, it's definitely between that or decent. I think he's if I was being kind, I would say he's played ever so slightly better than I expected, but I don't think well enough to be able to push it any higher than as described. Because like you say, he set a really high standard for himself. And as Gonzo, you're not wrong. Let's be fair. He is on a downswing. It's not like he's going to be as he was when he first turned up. So I'd probably make the argument for as described as well. But like you said, the chat by far and away said decent.
Yeah, the live chat overwhelmingly voted for decent. Right, we're running out of players. So we'll go for Declan Rice, go for a tap in. To be fair, this is an interesting one. To play devil's advocate. Was Declan Rice unbelievable? Because our standards for Declan Rice are sky high. At the start of the season, Declan Rice would have been who you had the highest expectation of coming up to the season. So it's easy for Coufal to go in there because he turned up 5 million. We never heard of him. We expected little. Hammer of the Year contender. Wow, unbelievable, Jeff. And you go, but Declan Rice, you expect him to be a Hammer of the Year contender. You expect him to be in the top 2-3 man of the match every single game. So for him to get in, unbelievable, Jeff, I think he's got to have delivered man and match every single game, almost, because his standards are so high. So where do you put Declan?
As described for me, I think he's our best player, and he is our best player. So I don't know how you can get any higher than that, really. That's it. He's brilliant. I think he's our best player. But I thought that last season. So.
Charlie?
So yes, I haven't looked at him. Oh, wow, unbelievable. Look at this guy. He's absolutely brilliant. I thought he was brilliant anyway.
Yeah, the live chat are saying unbelievable. What are you saying, Charlie? You're not getting out of it. Just by moving him into unbelievable doesn't get you out of it.
Yeah, he's good, isn't he?
I'm going to put him in decent. I thought he had a fantastic... He's my Ham of the Year. Just for people's context, he's my Ham of the Year. I think he's our most important player. But as Gonzo said, I expect him to be Ham of the Year. It's hard to...
He keeps getting better, and for that, I think he has to go in unbelievable, Jeff. And he does keep outperforming expectations. I think I am close to being decent. I am very close to being decent. But I do think he keeps outperforming his expectations. And that's just something that's... And again, if you'd asked me, if this was like 6 months ago, I probably would have put him in decent because, as you know, I was getting very annoyed with the fact he kept flipping shooting, and I just don't shoot, bro. Like unless you're in.
Oh, thank goodness he did.
But yeah, but the one time you did it, we were already 2-0 up, and he was in the box. The most of the time, it's 25 yards ago, and he's just punting it all over the shot. You did it once, and it was great, and we all enjoyed it. Stop doing it again. But what I would say is, it is unbelievable. He just keeps getting better. I'm starting to think like I don't. Before I was like, I think his ceiling is a very, very good player who's been one of the best in the Prem. At this point, I'm like, I don't know where that's ever going to stop.
Well, Ray says you'd sell him.
Oh, I would sell him, but that's a different argument for another time.
Right, let's not get into that in this video. We'll save that for another one.
You don't want to get into that now.
For Declan to get unbelievable Jeff for me, he would probably have to literally win PFA Player of the Year. He would have to do something exceptional in order to get that for me. So I completely get what Gonzo's saying as well. The standard's too high to push on a little bit. And this is, Jan has said this is the problem with the tiers, but we made it clear at the start of the video, we're doing against expectation. It's as simple as that. If you do it on performance, everybody's in the top 2 tiers because we've had such a fantastic season. We're doing against player expectation. So, Mr. Walsh, what we've got left?
I'll tell you what, let's go with Issa Diop. Issa Diop.
Oh, okay. All right. Disappointed.
Go on.
Disappointed. He's done okay this season, but I expected more. I expected him to push on and show us the form that he showed in his first season at West Ham, where he was first choice centre back. He didn't even finish the season as first choice centre back. Craig Dawson, who I thought was finished, came in and put him out of the team. That's not good. For Issa Diop. He is the most nailed on disappointed player in the squad for me out of this.
I agree.
I think there's an argument to say as expected, but I don't think so. Only because my expectations are quite low for him at the moment. He's got all the talent in the world, but it's just a case of actually finding it at this point. And I don't think him being in and out of the squad's ever going to find it at that point. And you can't convincingly say, oh, you have to play ahead of Dawson, who's been brilliant, and Ogbonna, who's been brilliant, or if you're playing a back three, Cresswell, who's been brilliant. I don't think you can just sacrifice that to put him in there, sort of thing. And I don't think we're ever going to see that, which is why I make the argument of potentially as described, because it's like, this is kind of what I expected of him, to come in and have really good games and then have some very, very bad ones. But it's definitely between that and disappointed. And I think the live chat agrees with you too, to be fair.
Yeah, the live chat bang on disappointed. Gonzo, any comment to make, or just I agree?
There's nothing to add, mate. There's nothing to add on him, I'm afraid.
Right, who we got left?
We have left Felipe Anderson, Mark Noble, Darren Randolph, Winston Reid, and Jesse Lingard.
Okay,
get Anderson out of the way. Come on. Oh, right.
Yeah, let's get Anderson. Leave Noble
get
for last.
Anderson out of the way.
He's got to go rubbish. Rubbish. He can't even get into Porto, mind you, neither can I. But, I mean, come on. He's Brazilian international, right? I mean, they don't even play him. He's not played since February. He can't even get in the squads. I mean, come on. Ridiculous. Rubbish.
The squad thing means nothing to me. I really don't care. The manager doesn't like him in the same way that managers don't like players, but you can't put him in anything else. And I like Felipe Anderson. I'm probably the person who likes him the most, and even I would put him in rubbish. Because he's played what? How many games has he had in the league? Like 4 or something stupid like that?
So would you keep him? Would you keep him?
Oh, yeah, 100%. But
so what you need to do is a video. I'd sell Declan Rice, but keep Felipe Anderson. That will bang. That's clickbait.
I already said we should keep that Felipe Anderson, and the comments were not happy.
No, but it needs to be the same video. and then I want to read the comments just for that video.
Oh, bro, you think I won't do it? I don't care.
Can we decide what goes on the thumbnail as well? We want a nice smiley Charlie, a smug Charlie.
And I like a sniper's target as well on Charlie.
Happy to do it. More than happy to do it. There you go. Get excited for that coming this summer when videos slow down, everyone.
Absolutely. I like that one.
Anyway,
live. Coming live. To cinema near you.
It has to be rubbish, though, doesn't it?
But this is wait, hang on. For Alan here, this season Anderson played 2 minutes in the league. Cannot rate him on. But we're rating on what he did or didn't do at Porto on loan because the West Ham player. He didn't play, so it's rubbish. It's a rubbish loan.
Rubbish.
Yeah, we're not.
Rubbish.
That's the thing. You should say, Alan. It's not judging him necessarily as a footballer, or you can see as rubbish as a footballer as well. It's judging him on what he did this season as a footballer and what he did.
Which
this
is
season
rubbish.
And as a person.
Well, you can say that. You can say that.
Anyway,
I personally think he's a lovely man.
As a father.
Anyway, what we got next?
Oof, Jesus Christ. Let's do the Winston Reid. Winston Reid.
I don't know.
Decent, right? I didn't think he'd play any football, and he ended up going away and playing some football and playing for a team that got promoted. I thought he was dead. I didn't even know he existed anymore. So I think he's done remarkable. He's almost unbelievable, Jeff. Really.
To be fair, I put him in decent as well because he was out for 2 years almost. He was out a long. I mean, this is a career-ending injury. And while we can all snigger and doubt his ability, if he'll ever play for West Ham again, the guy's been here in nearly testimonial status. He's nearly deserving of a testimonial with us. Probably won't get one. But to come back from that, it's just the mentality it must have taken to come back from that injury, go to MLS where, 1 minute he's playing in the Premier League, he's been linked to big clubs. Gets injured. Next thing is he's been shipped out of MLS. He's probably thinking, what is going on here? Then he's on the way to Brentford and helps get them promoted and stuff as well. I think massive, in this day and age where there's a massive focus on mental health, I think Winston Reid, you could look at him and say, damn, fair play to you, lad, fair play. Because what it must have taken for him to overcome that and do what he's done is ridiculous. I'll put him in decent as well.
It's a bit like Charlie when he broke his headphones, and then he came back and then he did another video afterwards and just kept on producing the videos. Thought it was amazing. A lot of people would have stopped doing videos at that point with the tape around a headphone, and he just carried on. I mean, it's unbelievable, Jeff.
I'm an inspiration to the people.
You are. I think Reid watched the video and he thought, you know what? I'm going to Brentford.
I think Reid's got a poster of Charlie on his wall. I think Felipe Anderson does as well, to be fair.
Not the only one.
How he does.
Felipe Anderson says, my fan, full stop, and it's just a picture of me.
Anyway, who we got there? I'll tell you what, we forgot about Haller and Snodgrass, so we'll have to have imaginary people for them.
The chat was lobbing Reid?
No one really commented.
They did. I did.
Put him in decent. There's some people said decent, but no one really had an opinion.
Some people said unbelievable, to be fair.
Yeah,
I would put him in as described for sake of argument. But
right, Jesse Lingard. Where are we putting Jesse Lingard? Watch where we put him. Sorry, bad.
Sorry, that's not me picking my nose, by the way. That's sewing up.
No one picked up on the watch joke, but never mind.
Oh, sorry. Neither did I. Sorry,
bro. Yeah, I watched the video. When was it? Yesterday. It was just nothing but watch. It was just.
I like a watch joke. Anyway, what we're saying, he's got to go an unbelievable Jeff for me.
Of course he is.
Some people are saying decent.
Oh man, I don't know. I didn't expect it to be that good. I didn't expect all that. I got, come on, all those goals, all those assists, all the stuff, it was good, wasn't it?
I expected him to be good, but probably not. I don't know if I could say I expected him to be that good. I've always liked Jesse Lingard, but he has been next level. Again, it's one of those ones where the last 5 games is colouring our judgment, maybe perhaps slightly because, what have we done for you lately sort of thing. But, I mean, the stats speak for themselves, really, on this one specifically. Like, what is he, second top goal scorer, one of the highest assist makers in half a year? 9 goals and 4 assists in 16 appearances. Ridiculous. Yeah.
And that was with 2 or 3 stinkers as well. So it's got to be unbelievable, Jay. I think the live chat agree with us generally. I think there's 1 or 2 people also putting in decent as well, but most people are saying unbelievable, Jeff.
Yeah, I think so. I think I thought he was going to be very good, but he was the team for a hot minute there. There was a 10-game period or whatever where he was just the guy.
Have we only got Mark Noble left?
Which leaves us with Darren Randolph and Mark Noble.
Do Randolph first.
And if you want to talk about Snodgrass and Haller, I guess those. Randolph is interesting. I have no clue.
As expected.
Yeah,
he was available when he was supposed to be. Did okay. Conceded a silly goal. As described.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. Yeah, absolutely.
What are you thinking about, Charlie? What's it to be?
That or disappointing. I don't know. But I don't really think he's done anything that wrong to me.
Have a quick look at the live chat there. Everybody said as expected, as described. So, sorted.
I don't think I'm ever correct. I'm fine. I don't think I'm ever right. Which leaves us with
that bloke can't spell correctly.
I know, but I'm trying to block him while we're doing the video.
I By the way, that's not how you spell it. That's not how you spell Speedos.
Anyway,
I've got nothing on.
Before we do Mark Noble, we've got an invisible Sebastien Haller here. All right, because it's my fault. I never had Sebastien Haller or Robert Snodgrass in a template for Charlie, so it's my fault. But Sebastien Haller in the live chat, where would you put Sebastien Haller? Where would you put him, Gonzo? A Sebastien Haller advocate when we signed him. Also a Sebastien Haller sale advocate.
It's massively disappointing. I mean, it has to be. I can't say he's rubbish because he scored some goals. All right. But I'm really disappointing to spend all that money. Our record ever transfer. We might not beat that record transfer for 4 or 5 years. I don't think we'll buy him up for 45 million this year. Might not next year. Really disappointing, mate. I mean, we really needed him to step up when Antonio was out, and we withered on the vine. When he scored some goals, he did all right, but he was a little bit lackluster, wasn't he? So disappointing for me.
Walsh.
It's either as described or decent. I think the thing that's making me say decent is I think he played well given the situation he was thrown into. I don't think it was right for him, and I think you're asking too much of a person in the same way I would make that same argument for Odebeku when he came on against Manchester United. I'm like, okay, throw him to the Wolves then. Don't help the kid. That's fine. And I would say the same about Sebastien Haller. I'm close to saying decent because I still think, like Gonzo said, he scored some goals, some unreal goals as well at that, but part of me wants to say as described because it's exactly what I expected to happen when it was when he was putting in David Moyes' system. I don't know what more I could expect out of that or what less I could expect out of that. It just sort of makes sense. So I'll stick with as described, but part of me does want to say decent.
Interesting. I think the positives for him, I think the talent was clearly there. The goal against Crystal Palace was unbelievable. I think he scored important goals for us as well. His goals were worth a win and a draw, which equates to an additional 3 points, which without we don't get European football. Well, no, because if you don't win the game, you draw the game, you get a point anyway, don't you? I said an additional 3.
Fair enough.
Thank you. Anyway, but you could say that about most players. You could go and look over Antonio's goal, deduct them and say, well, we're now finishing 15th in the league kind of thing. However, I don't think he did enough. While I don't think we played to his strengths, I think he was hung out to dry a little bit. I don't think we played to his strengths. It was a bad fit for Moyes, and Moyes was a bad fit for Sebastien Haller as well. But I'm going to put him in disappointed. Gonzo wasn't here at the start, but the usual where I put Saeed Benrahma in disappointing as well, because I don't think what we got in return reflects what we've paid for them. And Sebastien Haller is that. So he goes into disappointed for me. And I think that's where the live chat put him as well. So
I think they've got as described.
No, I think what do you think?
Oh, sorry, I've not scrolled to the bottom. Yeah, good point. Yeah, that takes me.
You were probably reading the Randolph thing.
I was.
That was.
I was thinking, when on earth did Haller make that save? But I discounted it.
Where would you put Snodgrass, boys?
As described.
Yeah, as described.
I guess so, to be nice.
Ran around like a headless chicken non-stop. That's what he wants. That's what he does.
Tried hard. Wasn't quite good enough.
I mean, he didn't get to play a lot, did he? And he was sold, which was as expected, I guess, wasn't it? So we got a little bit of money for him as well, to be fair.
You know something controversial? While I think, listen, there's no doubting his character and stuff. I'm throwing that disclaimer in there. Selling him was the best thing we did for the second half of that season. Because if he was fit, we might have played him.
It helped West Brom get relegated.
Well, that too. But if we did play him, if he was fit, we might have played him in some games. That would massively have hindered us, whether it was centre midfield, attacking midfield. And but in the first half of the season, we played Snodgrass in some attacking positions. Not very often, but mainly last season, we played in some attacking positions and we were slow. This season, there's no Snodgrass. We've got a bit of pace in the team. Our counter-attacks are different to 12 months ago. They're faster, they're zippier, they're better. Losing Robert Snodgrass was part of that, to be honest with you. So I'll put him in as described because I expected a slow, hard-working player and got a slow, hard-working player.
Okay.
So, Mark Noble. We're back to the tier list. Last player, live chat. Where are you putting Mark Noble? And this is a difficult one. I think it's more difficult than you think. But Gonzo says no. So what have you got, Gonzo?
No, I don't think it is. It's as described. Again, you've got set expectations. I didn't expect Mark to play very well, very often, very often, frequently this season, and he didn't. But when he did play, particularly when Rice was out, he had a couple of really good games in there, and So I think it's as described. I mean, it's very hard to be disappointed with him. Was he decent? I don't think he played enough to be that, really. Did he score this season? Can't remember. Did he get a pen or anything? But anyway, doesn't matter. As described.
I don't think he did, actually. I'm trying to think. I don't recall him scoring, which must be the first time he's not scored since he made his debut.
Mark Noble has load transfer marks, please. He has not scored this season. No goals, no assists.
Rubbish, then.
Where are you putting him, Charlie?
It's difficult. It's between as described or decent. When he was coming in, I was a bit concerned when Rice went out, and I thought he performed above expectations for those games. I like Noble a lot, and that probably colours my judgment somewhat as well. It would be between decent and as described, because I think for most of the times he's played. Do you know what? No, I'll put him in decent. Because I do think every time when it comes down to it, I'm concerned. When he comes on the pitch, I'm a bit like, okay, right, what are we going to do? And I think the worst performances he's had aren't necessarily because of him, but because of the formation. I don't think playing him in a 4-3-3 works at all, for example. But when he came in, when he was playing as part of a 2, I thought he played relatively well. So I'll say decent. I'll err on decent.
I think what we saw from him, especially towards the end of the season, is what we want from him. A squad role, you come in when there's a place needed filled, or you come in when we're winning a game and we just need to keep the ball kind of thing. There is definitely a role for him. And I'm going to put him in decent as well, because when Rice got injured and it looked like we were throwing European football away because Antonio was injured as well, Cresswell was injured, Masuaku was injured, everyone was just falling down. Mark Noble stepped up a bit. Mark Noble come in and put in 2 man-of-match performances against Leicester and Wolves. These are not poor opponents either. He came in and he helped dictate those games and get us massively vital points in European football and stuff. And I think those 2 performances in particular almost warranted him getting upgraded a little bit, because everyone feared the worst when Mark Noble came in then. Everyone thought, oh, no, this is it. And I thought he was better. And I think he's demonstrated his role next season. And should the signing of Alex Kral be true, and we do sign him, I think we'll see a better role for Mark Noble, which is we select which games to play you and kind of thing. But for this season, I thought he was decent. That's it. Anyway, that's it. There's our tier list. Charlie, would you like to present the final tier list? Mark Noble goes in. Well, what's the live chat saying, actually?
It was between as described and decent. My gut said it was more as described, but it was certainly close.
Yeah, I think so as well. So there you go. We'll pop him in there. So there you go. And this is where we're going to have a little bit of a challenge here. Charlie, who is in the unbelievable Jeff from the Hammers Chat community?
We have Angelo Ogbonna, Vladimir Coufal, Aaron Cresswell, Tomas Soucek, Declan Rice, and Jesse Lingard.
Gonzo, who have we got in the decent category?
I can't see him. Jared Bowen, someone spinning a ball, which I guess is the fornicator. Some other bloke, another bloke, I think it's Antonio. Dawson, Fabianski, and is that Winston Reid? Oh, he's got a ball.
Is.
No, yeah, Fornals. Yeah,
and it was Saeed Benrahma.
Okay,
as described, we've got David Martin, we've got Arthur Masuaku, we've got Manuel Lanzini, Ryan Fredericks, Fabian Balbuena, Ben Johnson, Darren Randolph, and Mark Noble. And Charlie, disappointed.
Diop.
All on his own.
And down in the rubbish, Gonzo, we've got
Yarmolenko. Who is next to him?
Felipe Anderson.
Oh, yes. I can't see. It's tiny. Not that, obviously. The footballer's huge. Anyway, yeah. Felipe Anderson and Yarmolenko.
Brilliant. Well, a massive thank you to you guys at home for tuning in. We'll try and do some more community edition tier lists as we go. Gonzo, I hope you enjoyed your debut on the community tier list.
Oh, yeah. Good, wasn't it?
Yeah, I enjoy it. Me and Charlie always enjoy it. But check out our sponsors, 5 yards, in the description below, and the pinned comments as well. Drop a like on the video if you enjoy it. It's guiding you around here. Until next time, catch you in a bit.